Are you familiar with the Cabali? Their homeworld is under attack by the Vaadwaur, and they've requested our aid. I informed the head of their military that you would render them support on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
The city has been under siege for months and cannot take much more. Please do what you can on Cabali Prime to stop the Vaadwaur from destroying the Cabali.
Okay. Let's go see what's going on.
Hello, I'm Captain Harry Kim, Starfleet's military liaison to Cabali Prime. The Vaadwaur have been assaulting the Cabali homeworld for months now. The Cabali are near a breaking point. They're not trained for war, not like the Vaadwaur. The Alliance is here to stop the Vaadwaur and help the Cabali reclaim their home. You and several others will be leading our forces here. I'll be doing some investigations to help support the effort. Good luck.
Thank you.
I cannot tell you how good it is to have you there. Our people have been bombarded by the Vaadwaur for months. We cannot take much more of this. Before you go out to the field, I would ask your help within the city. Morale is at an all-time low, and our people could use a boost. We've been fighting this war for nearly a year now, and it's taking a toll on our troops. We are a peaceful people. This is the first time my soldiers have been exposed to death and destruction on this scale. They're demoralized and depressed. I'm concerned about the long-term effects on their mental health. You have more experience than we do around. It would help if you could speak to our soldiers and share your insights. Please stop by the window. Some of the wounded there have asked to meet you.
The Alliance needs your help. A group of Alliance ships are currently under attack by the Vaadwaur in the Orlitus System. The Lleiset is making its way there to render assistance. I want you to back them up.
I'm sure I'm on the right mission. That likes to make you deviate and capture the flag.
Glad to have you by our side. This is one of the systems marked for further examination during your work with Subcommander Seyhen. I'm not sure what the Vaadwaur are up to here, but they're fighting like demons. They're attacking a small group of Alliance vessels. More hostile ships are on the way. I propose we divide and conquer. The Lleiset will fly ahead and catch any incoming ships, while you free our trapped allies. Your thoughts?
Good idea. Proto will rescue the trapped ships.
Now that's a congested space.
Vaadwaur firepower.
When the stabilizer's on, I don't feel a thing during space combat. Computer continue data log.
The Soon Foundation's General Council had already argued on behalf of the rights of sentient holograms, so I believe they were on the correct side of the issue with regard to androids. And I didn't want to burn my bridges permanently with either the Soon people or the Daystrom people by meddling. Now I wish to God that I had meddled. Maybe things would have turned out differently. Are you saying that you wish Captain Data hadn't returned from the dead? Of course not. Let's just say I was relieved when I heard that the Soon Foundation's research had run into the same initial impasse that my own people had encountered, meaning that their luck in cracking the data matrix had been better. Exactly. Until they called in another one of Captain Data's airplanes to take the ship with the problem. You'll have to ask the Soon people about that, Mr. Sickbay. All I know for certain is that they seem to have had better luck than I did understanding how. And while working on two fronts simultaneously, no less. Can I assume that one of those fronts involved continued efforts to unlock the data matrix? Of course. And the other was their ability to use the Endine crisis to justify what they did next. And that's something I really don't care to talk about. Standing on to the wide window's desert vista, signaling that he's done with the interview. The temperature on both sides of the transparent window seems to have plunged by at least 15 degrees Celsius in the space of so many seconds. I rise from my chair as well and begin awkwardly gathering up my recording pad and the small holometer I had set down on Reynolds' desk. I briefly consider asking him whether he includes his old friend Dalen in whatever ethical indictments he may be thinking of leveling at the City Foundation. Thinking better of it, I thank him for the interview, finish packing up my gear, and exit the office. In the hallway outside, I make a mental note to get Captain Geordie Vaadwaur decided this story as soon as I possibly can. Jake Sickbay, Beta R.R.W #Q12. Quark's Federation Starbase Deep Space. Quark doesn't pour many of the drinks or wait tables himself these days, which accounts for his availability on this rather busy evening. Other than his ears being slightly larger, Quark hasn't changed much over the years. He's still a caution dresser who enjoys flaunting his attitude. He can make a great show of unique pride when someone calls into question the veracity of his anecdotes. He continues to be a past president and member of Sickbay, the Federation Starbase Deep Spacemen and Colonial Merchants Association, not to mention the owner and sole proprietor of the Quark's Bar, Grill, Gaming House, Holosuit Arcade, and bearing the embassy, which looks as prosperous now as I've ever seen it, more prosperous, in fact, since he's been out. Loath to expand his enterprise into some of the neighboring Colonial. Quark leans back into the luxuriant upholstery of the booth we're sharing near one of the walls on the main level. The noise from the bar, the other booths and tables, and the gaming area beyond is considerable, but it works in tandem with the subdued lighting to assure our privacy, along with the discretion of a number of shady-looking characters I glimpsed on my way to the booth. Despite Quark's obvious success in frequently convincing many of the individuals, some things clearly remain unchanged. Quark and I eased into our conversation by small talk and shared reminiscences. Soon he seems to be getting comfortable relating to me as a journalist and as the son of the station's father. As he warms to the interview process, it occurs to me that this man is a natural replica, which should come as no surprise considering his name. Still, I'm impressed by his ability to draw me into his narrative as a surely. The realization makes me wonder how much trust I should invest in the tales he's telling. But at the moment, I'm content merely to satisfy my very curiosity to know what happened next. The Diamond War, huh? Well, it just so happens I played a role in that. Probably a much bigger role than you'd expect. Was that when Grand Nagaswan tried to cut a deal with the Undying leadership, the always happy Federation should have done with the Dominion. I think it was an hour time, but I don't think the Undying would have come to any negotiating session. It should have been obvious by the time the fighting really got started that the Undying weren't like the Dominion. We might have come to some sort of economic notice by then that the Dominion and the Federation had gotten so bent out of shape over those initial No, the Undying weren't remotely like the Founders or the Borda or even the Gemini. The Undying made the bold look easy. My brother should have seen him. He might be the Nagus, but he's still an idiot. As far as I know, never managed to hit any of their spies in Faringemont. I've asked that same question myself more times than I can count over the years. I've never heard a satisfactory answer, in spite of all the paranoia of the Nagus. Bottom line, nobody knows. But at least I know one thing for a fact. The Undying had definitely managed to compromise at least some of the Ferengi alliances between their partners during the long 4 years. And you happen to be looking at the very Ferengi who discovered that fact. Let me tell you. Tell me. That's why I'm here. I'm all ears. Huh. Look who's talking. Well, during the early phases of the war, I had some dealings with a certain higher-ranking member of the Orion Syndicate. The Orion Syndicate. Are you sure you really want to talk about this on record? How do you know I wasn't working with Security Chief Rowe as part of a covert, an entirely legitimate sting operation? Fair enough. Of course, I could check with him and get either a flat denial or a no comment. Security reasons. Now where was I? The Alliance Syndicate. Right. It all began around the time of the Orlitus System business. Not long after a thoroughly unpleasant individual named Hassan pushed aside a minor crime boss named Orlitus and took over his various enterprises, both legal and illicit, passing and dying. The Orion Prime Lord, the very same green, but not from any lack of experience. He earned that name by being bold enough to grasp any opportunity that came his way, yet cautious enough so as to appear practically unkillable. After all, it wasn't as though there was any shortage of syndicate underbosses ready and willing to put Hassan's undying sobriquet to the test, at least early in his career. I lost track of all the assassination attempts he survived. He had a kind of sixth sense, and that made him one of the biggest players in the Orion Syndicate. At the height of his power, most of the drug trade, prostitution, and weapons trafficking in Greece sectors went through his giant jade fingers. But Hassan wasn't the biggest player in the Syndicate. I wasn't exactly sure what Hassan's standing with the Syndicate was when I first started doing business with him back in the day. I mean, it wasn't as though I was trying to associate myself with the organization. I've always been a legitimate, fair-money businessman, just trying to keep that max profit, preferably a large one. But whenever the needs of any large organization operating anywhere in the sector create the potential for us to make a change, so to speak, my motives are bound to pick it up, of course. Rule of the position 22. A wise man can make profit in the end. Jake, you've really done your homework. I think I know why, really. Anyway, the Orion Syndicate had a complicated hierarchy with a lot of levels to it even then, when the Orions were only beginning to seize direct control of all the top tiers. So it was no small achievement on Hassan's part that he answered directly to Melania Dean herself, instead of one of her regulars. Melania Dean, the Orion Syndicate's football not to mention the star of several exclusive and highly profitable policy programs crafted by highly refined sensibility. But I digress. The long and short of it is that a played-out purging line of the Soxa colony had recently come into that possession, thanks to my cousin Gail having a run of bad luck at the time of the deal. The line was so worthless that it almost didn't merit the effort to get it on. Not my fault. How did a played-out purging mind get you involved in making by turning out to be smack on top of a thick deposit of calcite and a hidden egg, huge vein of decalithium from all the previous deep scans of the mine. And it just so happened that Hassan and Dean found themselves in great need of decalithium in bulk and in a hurry, not long after I made that little discovery. Wait a minute, Quark.
We're ready to fight.
Isn't decalithium a volatile material with a lot of weapons applications? True enough, though it was a new enough discovery at the time so as not to have run afoul of a lot of fussy Federation laws and interstellar transport regulations yet. There's always a regulatory lag of a year or so, and an entrepreneur who's willing to trust in the ninth rule asterisk and step into the gap at the right moment can make a fortune. How? By developing decalithium weapons. I thought you knew me better than that, Jake. After that fiasco with Hackett back in 73, I was done with the weapons trade for good. And I was only a broker then, not a dealer. Are you saying that the Orion Syndicate was interested in peaceful ways of using decalithium? Rule number 35. Peace is good for business. Even those green glandular cases who were trying to take over the Syndicate back in, and I'm sure they were at least as aware of what the 34th rule said. War is good for business. Of course. That's what makes the rules so beautiful, elegant, and versatile, not to mention so universally relevant they can apply them to any given situation. But the Orions aren't 100% about death and destruction, even though some of them of savory adventures have shown the galaxy made sure to be able. Even the Klingons aren't all bloodlust. Somebody has to go through the film and pilot the freighters and garbage squad. So what exactly were the Orions using their decalithium for? Interstellar transportation, or more precisely, multi-parsec subspace transportation, interstellar range transporters, like the technology the Dominion had. A lot like that. Imagine the benefits. No more risky smuggling operations. No more chance of being boarded unexpectedly. No more cargoes of freighters. Merchandise would just disappear from one secure location to light years away. The Orion Syndicate really had that kind of technology. Let's just say that there were more than a few highly competent scientists and engineers at the Syndicate's disposal. Some of them came from Starfleet and ended up entangled in webs of gambling, debt, and blackmail that gave them no choice other than to quietly cooperate with Hassan. The Dominion had already proved that it was possible to gain across interstellar distances where nobody else had managed it yet. Hassan's people must have figured that all they really lacked was a sufficient source of power. Your decalithium. Exactly. You don't seem quite so proud of it now, Quark. Did you come here to give me accounts of the situation or to conduct an interview? Sorry. Obviously, the first shipments of decalithium from your
Now the Vaadwaur will know the fury of the core.
A large Vaadwaur fleet just arrived. This is our chance to strike before they retreat.
Docked mining operation to the Orion Syndicate had arrived the old-fashioned way, smuggled by a freighter. Chipped. Not smuggled, chipped. Remember, the regulations curtailing decalithium transport hadn't been written yet, so you weren't breaking any laws when you rode along with Hassan's lieutenant, Raka, to take that first decalithium delivery to Hassan's private shipping depot. Not yet. So how could you have been conducting a sting operation if nothing technically illegal was going on? Like I said, you'd have to ask for land or Starfleet intelligence about that if either of them are willing to talk to you about this, which I doubt. But I'm sure they felt as entitled to do surveillance on Raka and Hassan as Odo used to feel in keeping an eye on me. So you had some time to generate a lot of foot traffic before the Invaders drove the decalithium trade underground. I should have known this too. There were only so many paid by these cargo lines I'd be able to fly before Starfleet closed the door on this opportunity, at least as a legitimate venture. And I certainly wasn't looking forward to the prospect of being arrested by my own country. So when Raka made me announce it, I was sort of tempted. I mean, I could have made all my money by paying off the mining and syndicate assuming that Nalani Dean didn't decide to look past him, or Ra could kill you so she could just leave and the annex to mind herself. I'll admit that possibility would cross my mind though I did think that even Nalani Dean wanted to risk getting sideways with the grand magus of affairing the Alliance by murdering his brother. I mean, Ra might be an idiot, but he was loyal as a draft of a puppy leg, and he wields more power than anybody as ambitious as he is anyway. But as it turned out, fear of Orion assassins wasn't what made me decide to sell and get out of the decalithium mining business while the getting was still good. Maybe you've gotten tired of dealing with gangsters and corruption. Jake, have you ever tried to maintain an establishment profitable without dealing with gangsters and corruption? No, I made my decision based on something else entirely, and I did it during my first flight from the Zopsamine dock after we picked up the car. We went halfway to Hassan's undisclosed location when it happened. When what happened? Raka and I were flying.
I am Lieutenant Gaius Silamovich, Chief Intelligence Officer from the Lleiset. I regret to inform you that the Vaadwaur now control the ship. The bridge is lost, and we are locked out of most internal sensors. However, I managed to access a secure comm channel before the security codes were changed, and have located a safe location for transport. I have sent the coordinates to your ship. Without your assistance, the Lleiset and her crew will be lost.
I'll speak to my crew.
The ship is swarming with Vaadwaur soldiers. Our security forces are attempting to engage them, but as of yet, we have not made significant gains. I am unable to contact other members of the senior staff, but I believe they are still alive. Very coincidental, really. Our current situation is remarkably similar to my invasion scenario 4591. When you are ready, we can go over our plan of attack.
What's the plan of attack?
We need to retake several key areas of the ship. The security team here will capture the bridge. Meanwhile, your team should storm the medbay, which we are very close to. Dr. Kratark should be there. After that, we must retake the Armory to prevent the Vaadwaur from resupplying. In the majority of my scenarios, Lieutenant Tyrell is there making a stand against the invaders.
After that?
From there, we need to see whether the Vaadwaur perform like scenario 4591 or scenario 3291. Though perhaps they may surprise us and be more like 6895. My apologies. We do not have time for my idle speculation. Any questions?
Two-man cargo ship, and our course took us through an ion storm-infested region on the ragged edge of the Badlands. A plasma discharge opened up one of the dilithium canisters and catalyzed the material somehow, releasing some of it into the ventilation system, which sprayed it into the cockpit. You're lucky you weren't killed. Dr. Basher treated me for radiation poisoning after I got back to Deep Space Nine, but Rocca wasn't so lucky. Did the radiation kill him before you returned to DS9?
You must stop this meaningless massacre! Consider the balance!
That's the one who defied Gaul. Kill them all!
You have my thanks. Such reckless slaughter!
No, Rocca wasn't killed by the radiation. In fact, he must have been dead before we left Sakta. Maybe a long time before. What do you mean? I mean, he wasn't. Rocca, at least not anymore.
Thank you for the rescue. The Vaadwaur have no respect for anything other than their own selfish goals. I'm sorry, but I cannot help you any further. I am just a civilian scientist, not a trained killer. A trained soldier like you. I'll wait here until everything has settled down, unless you believe there is something I can do.
Check to see if anyone's here alive, and then bring them to the mid-bay after my team secures it.
Yes, that is more than acceptable. I will not fight, but I can help restore the balance by helping others. I will attempt to stabilize anyone who needs help here, and then await word from you or the doctor that the medbay is safe.
Very good. Stay safe while we move towards the medbay.
The radiation must have been the trigger. One moment, he was this huge, green humanoid sitting behind a control panel that was already too small for him. And then he started changing into an even bluer purple-gray thing. He was becoming something not even remotely humanoid, something that looked more like a giant predatory bug. He was an undying infiltrator, placed in the Orion Syndicate until he underwent a sudden unintentional reversion to his natural form. I remember one of Captain Janeway's Delta Quadrant logs recording an incident like that happening in Voyager's sickbay. It was the only answer that made any sense at the time. The radiation from the burst canister must have reversed whatever gene surgery those aliens do on their deep cover operatives. The accent turned Rock back into what he was really supposed to look like, and did it in a hurry.
Do your worst. You're amateurs compared to the tall Shi'ar. I will not sit by and let you take them. Thank you. Let's get to work. Glad to see you, but if you came here instead of the bridge, it means you're following a plan made by Gaius and his scenarios. The equipment here is still operational. I'll begin treating the wounded. There's a console nearby you can use to contact the security team heading to the bridge.
Good. I'll use the console to get in touch with the security squad.
Good timing.
We're about to storm the bridge. We'll keep the channel open during the assault. I'll contact you again after we have control.
Good luck.
What makes you think you will succeed where others have failed?
Dang. He's taking it to the dome. He's just an apologist. Like, hey, man. No, he's walking up on you like that, man. I mean...
You should have taken Gaul's offer.
Dang.
I imagine we both overheard the same thing. Curious. I've run simulations where the security team failed, but unlike this, we should continue with the plan. We have this area secure, and you are the only mobile unit still available. If you can recover Zhu and her team in the Armory, we will have another opportunity to retake the ship.
I'll head to the Armory and find the lieutenant.
His undying was undone, so to speak. But he wasn't showing any signs that he was about to die. Instead, he seemed angry that he'd blown his cover. And at the time, I really wished he hadn't done it right in front of me, since I was all alone with him in the cramped freighter cockpit. Now the timing of your decision to retire from the mining business makes perfect sense to me. Unfortunately, Rocca wasn't interested in leaving retirement on the table as one of my available options. He had claws the size of Talarian cook spiders, and they were at my throat in a heartbeat. I tried to get to the rear of the cabin to get away from him, but he was just too fast. That's all I remember until I came to him at Starfleet Infirmary with Ro and Nob, flanking my bag. It seems I'd been rescued in the proverbial nick. A crack Starfleet security team had dealt with the undying monster with what you might call extreme prejudice. Getting back to the bar after that must have been a welcome change of pace. It was. Eventually, he didn't go home right away. Starfleet intelligence needed somebody to be aboard the freighter when it delivered its cargo to its destination at one of Hassan's distribution hubs. The trouble was, I really didn't see that as a viable option.
Thanks for the help, I guess. We should talk strategy.
Good.
Vaadwaur. I'll take down every last one of them, I swear it. Nobody makes me look like a fool. I guess I'll let you deal with a few. I can't be in two places at once. We have problems in the Brig and in engineering.
Tell me what the situation is.
Sionel and his team are pinned down in engineering, and Commander Jirok and Sub-Commander Merrill are in the Brig. I'm going to head engineering. If the Vaadwaur get control of the Singularity, we're done. Think you could secure the Brig?
I'll secure the Brig for the Commander.
At the time. Aside from your own healthy instinct for self-preservation, why not? Wasn't your original plan to deliver the freighter's cargo to Hassan? Sure it was. But think about it, Jake. I hadn't planned on having to explain the sudden absence of one of Hassan's most trusted lieutenants. I mean, the man was bound to be pretty peeved when I turned up alone, even though you would have been bringing him the cargo of decalithium he was expecting, along with a dead and dying that used to be rocked until it somehow acquired a face or hole in its chest. And a lame story about having had no choice but to kill the thing after it had revealed itself as a spy that had obviously killed and replaced the real Rocca some time ago. I pointed out to Ro, Nob, and anybody else who might have listened that nobody was likely to get into the habit of calling me Quark the Undying if I were to try this stupid stunt. I gathered from the fact that you didn't go back to the bar right away that Starfleet intelligence finally persuaded you. The Starfleet spooks didn't persuade me. Ro did. How? She said that Hassan was liable to be in an even worse mood if he had to go searching for that freighter, and that he'd be angrier still if he found it adrift with a dead nightmare creature sprawled across the cockpit in place of both him and Welcome. He'd no doubt come looking for me next, and if he were to find me alive and well at the bar, he'd be pretty insistent about getting a detailed explanation from me, probably after a lengthy interview and a soundproof chamber filled with sharp objects. Excellent point. Debate may be one of her lesser known
Delay them. I need time.
areas of expertise, but she's always been as good with a cutting comment as she is with a face. A lot like Kira in her way. So I decided it would be a lot better for me if I came to Hassan instead of making him come to D-Slay looking for me. As well as better for...
Disable the security grid and we can get out of here.
Okay. Another one's, I think, more like a quantum. Also have, there's all kind of crazy stuff.
Thank you. What's the situation? You're a welcome sight. I was on the bridge. We were attacked by just one Vaadwaur, but he was different, stronger, unstoppable. He wiped out our security team, but he knocked Var and me out. Put us here for questioning. What's happening? Do we have control of the bridge?
Well, I mean, we have the med-bay Armory. I think the lieutenant's in engineering, but the bridge is still contested.
Is Zynel there? If he and Zhu can hold engineering while we take the bridge, we can take control of the ship and then clean up the Vaadwaur from there. I'll still need some time to recover. You and Subcommander Merrill should head to the bridge. I'll stay here and monitor the situation. Be on your guard. The Vaadwaur that took that bridge shrugged off our attacks like they were nothing. He won't go down easily.
My team will secure the bridge.
Lieutenant Rowe, I'd imagine. She couldn't have been eager to have Orion assassins come aboard DS9. And I suppose Starfleet intelligence would have wanted to keep you as close as possible to Hassan to help Starfleet assess the extent of the Undyne's infiltration of the Orion Syndicate, which I've heard turned out to be considerable. You're wasting your talents. You really ought to be writing more novels, or prefer, Ailey Halla novels, techno-thrillers. You could do one about how the Undyne tried to use the Orion Syndicate to create a long-range subspace transporter as part of their Alpha Quadrant invasion.
Excellent work. We have control of the ship's life support, navigation, and weapon systems again. According to the logs, the Vaadwaur leader was attempting to open fire on your ship. It doesn't look like he could get past Lieutenant Salon's security outpost. I'll handle things up here, but could you use that console to contact Lieutenant Terrell? Tell her to scramble her security teams and find that Vaadwaur.
I'll let her know the situation.
Survived worse than you. You have no idea who you're dealing with.
Was this all a trick to lure us away from engineering? What are they trying to... No, he couldn't. I fear the worst. If the Vaadwaur is in engineering, he could turn off the shielding protecting the Singularity core. Without containment, the Singularity will implode.
Stay here and keep the bridge secure. I'll go to engineering and stop the Vaadwaur.
This way. Narwhal and I have a plan. Very predictable. If the Vaadwaur can't use the Lleiset to attack other ships, they will make a statement by destroying us with our own singularity. I've analyzed the data from other teams fighting the Vaadwaur. It's pointless for you to try to fight it. Your weapons are inadequate for the task. However, Narwhal has come up with an interesting theory that may work.
What is the theory?
The vents in the Singularity Core carry a modified version of plasma. I'm not cleared to give you all the details, but the Lleiset is testing several advances that have not been provided to other ships in the fleet at this time. Neril believes direct exposure to this modified plasma may create a vulnerability in the Vaadwaur. I believe this plan has a low chance of success, but it is the best option we have. If you can lure the Vaadwaur beneath the vents, Neril and I will overload them, causing the plasma to cover the Vaadwaur and weaken him. You'll have one more problem to deal with before that, however.
No problem.
The Vaadwaur has erected a shield around the Singularity Core. Very smart, I must say. No one will be able to affect him when he is inside. You must trick him into dropping that shield. I suggest playing towards the Vaadwaur's pride. That is usually the surest way to convince someone to make a suboptimal move. Once that is done, lure the Vaadwaur beneath one of the vents. We'll activate the plasma, and then you can properly knock out our friend. Are you ready?
Can't we just transport the Vaadwaur out into space?
That was the first thing I tried when I arrived. There is something preventing us from locking transporters onto any of the Vaadwaur. Not uncommon, really. I have observed that many Starfleet officers also carry devices that prevent them from being randomly transported. If I find a way around the transporter block, I'll do as you ask.
Your ship is doomed!
Resilience. Perhaps that's why Gaul made his generous offer. You're too late to stop what is happening. The Singularity Core's overload has already begun. You will all be destroyed by your greatest weapon. It's almost poetic, really.
Where's your pride as Vaadwaur? You have to use the Singularity to kill me?
Pride as a Vaadwaur. That's good. Very good. This is simply the most efficient way. We could kill you all one at a time. But I have better things to do.
But I'll survive. I can transport myself out of here at any moment. We all can. Your jammers are down.
Interesting. But will you abandon the Lleiset? Stay until the last glorious second to try and save it. Regardless, I will admit you make a point. You've survived too many of your previous encounters for me to leave anything to chance. I will enjoy seeing the last bit of life leave your eyes.
Learn to live with disappointment.
Until their plans were foiled by the time-honored Ferengi values of pluck, haggling, and good old-fashioned greed. Speaking of which, I have a business proposition that might be right in your wheelhouse. Jake Sisko, Data ROD-F19. On the upper levels of Quark's Bar, Grill.
Focus your fire.
Gaming House, Holosuit Arcade, and Firth. NG Embassy lies in other world, or rather a near infinitude of other worlds, realms of light and shadow, and force fields that can simulate every sensory input to the point that fantasy can become
He's recovering. Focus your fire.
but indistinguishable from reality. In one of these technologically conjured worlds of perpetual summer rains, and dream teams whose members live decades and even centuries apart engage in genial combat amid the scent of newly mowed grass and cleat turker. In another for reality, a mid-20th century international super spy, armed with only a Walther pistol in his woods.
It'll take more than that to kill me.
Modulate your phasers.
I will not be stopped.
We need a
better solution.
Only like staggered. Something that's powerful enough to knock him back.
I've got just the thing.
Oh yeah. I think that got him.
What was that thing?
I don't know, but we need a better way to fight it.
I'll get to work.
Thank you for all your help. Without you, we would have lost the Lleiset. It's unfortunate we couldn't capture the Vaadwaur alive for questioning. He was unlike anything I've ever seen. What made him so powerful?
I don't know, but we need to find out.
Neril did manage to get a few scans. He's compiling a report on what he found and your success with the plasma. We need to adapt. We can't count on throwing every Vaadwaur like him into a singularity. We will handle the repairs. You should return to your ship when you're ready.
I will. Good luck with the repairs.
Commander Jirok, I have some preliminary data for you. The Vaadwaur gave off a modulated carrier wave every time he was attacked by an energy weapon. In effect, he reflected the energy outward as infrared radiation. Owl and I are not yet clear on whether this is a product of biology or technology, but he did show strange isobormy neurotransmitter activity. Regardless, this will give us a starting point to find vulnerabilities. I'll send on more findings as we complete them, and we should be able to adapt our weapons to be more effective in the future.
Next time, we'll be prepared.
A super Vaadwaur. This is the first time I'm hearing of it. You've done the Alliance quite a service today. Losing the Lleiset would have been a major blow to us. The Vaadwaur know that if they're resorting to boarding parties. We'll get the best scientists in the Alliance to analyze your combat data. With any luck, we can discover a way to hurt the Vaadwaur the same way Picard discovered how to fight the Borg. Hello. Would you have time to look into something for me? We know there's something going on with the Vaadwaur and the Cartella system. We haven't been able to get any ships close enough to determine what that is. I think you'll have better luck. The area doesn't have a lot of resources, but there's enough Vaadwaur ship traffic in the area to indicate a major base. But they're guarding it so closely that it could have something to do with their sudden jump in power. Given the aggressive nature of the Vaadwaur, getting close enough to investigate without attracting their attention will be difficult. We've made contact with a Hizari bounty hunter in possession of equipment that should allow you to approach and infiltrate their base. Hello. Would you have time to look into something for us?
Sounds good.
Transport me, baby.
Fights the enemies of freedom to an uneasy stalemate, and in still another, Earth's entertainment and gambling capital, Las Vegas, remains as it was nearly 4.5 centuries ago, frozen in the golden age of 1962. Despite the passage of so many years since the last time I saw him, and the fact that his program...
Greetings. It is agreeable to work with you again. The Vaadwaur have greatly expanded their reach since Voyager first encountered them. Their military capabilities have developed at a rate that Starfleet Command finds troubling. An additional concern is that some leaders of the Vaadwaur supremacy have developed unusual physical characteristics. These individuals exhibit strength and resilience far beyond the norm for their species. The crew of the Lleiset has shared their data of your previous encounter with one of the enhanced Vaadwaur with the Alliance. We have used it to devise several modifications to our weapons that may counteract their ability to reflect a portion of energy directed at them. I have provided the specifications to your crew, and they have already made the modifications to your weapons. However, these modifications are untested. It is unclear how much effect they will have. Not yet, but we have found a location that may have the answers we seek. Officially, Cartella is a defunct mining colony. However, intercepted messages indicate that the lower levels of the facility are being used by Supremacy leadership for an unknown purpose. Your mission will be to covertly enter the base and gather intelligence on the Vaadwaur. We have made arrangements with Yadren to provide you with equipment you will need to approach the system safely. Azari will provide a modified holo emitter that should allow you to approach the planet. Holo technology is unfamiliar to the Vaadwaur.
If you don't want to blow this whole deal, help me with these Vaadwaur!
Basher 62 has been running more or less continuously in this holosuit for more than a quarter century. Vic Fontaine looks exactly as he always did. From the immaculate black tuxedo to the tidy salt and pepper haircut that gives him the perpetual aspect of both vital, early middle age and the accumulated wisdom of centuries of community observation. Though Vic is occupied with the duties of an attentive host, working the holographic dinner crowd in his busy nightclub, he easily disengages himself from the clusters of conversation that surround him. He rescued me from a bunch of sharks-consuited Madison Avenue at night. He says as he greets me just past the periphery of the fashionably dressed, cocktail-sipping crowd, which never wanders.
Thanks for the help, but don't expect a discount. I wouldn't have been in that mess if I hadn't been waiting here for you. I picked up this device called a holo emitter from a big-eared fellow named Quinn. It's programmed to replicate the appearance of a Vaadwaur freighter. I don't know the specifics of this technology, but it works and I'm delivering it. That completes my contract. Quinn says this one has a few upgrades that aren't technically legal in the Alpha Quadrant. You're trying to run a con on the Vaadwaur. You should use the right tools for the job. It was my own fault. I should have activated it before I entered the system. But hooking it into our power supply was more complicated than Quinn said it would be. Alpha Quadrant tech has too many redundancies. Backups for your backups, and none of it matters because emergency power always fails in an emergency. Good luck. I'll wait here in case you make it back.
Voyager will remain here with the Adren. With your permission, I will beam over to your ship in order to coordinate the mission.
We have arrived at Cartella Prime. Your engineers have installed the holo emitter, and it is ready to activate at your command. We will need to infiltrate both automated and manual detection measures before we can reach transporter range of the planet. Our first task is to bypass the automated security perimeter.
Far from the stage where several jazz musicians are quietly setting up their instruments and equipment. Vic's firm handshake and inimitable high-wattage smile immediately remind me that he is far more than a mere photonic construct. I notice his eyes briefly searching mine, silently sizing me up in his own unique way, reminding me that he was the one. Everyone always came to when they needed help with personal problems, but didn't want to go through the formality of scheduling a meeting with a Starfleet counselor. I try to maintain my best poker face before deciding that it's useless to try to conceal anything from this self-described student of the human heart. Although I know the past quarter century has etched itself conspicuously into my face, Vic makes no mention of having noticed it. It's as though no time at all has passed since my last visit, for me as well as for him. As I immerse myself in his milieu asterisk after such a long absence, starting with a Martina-fueled crash course in operating the ancient audio equipment that dominates one of the club's out-of-the-way corner tables, I remind myself not to be surprised by the fact that Vic hasn't changed a bit, even though for him 1962 has already lasted 25 years and will continue into it.
We have successfully breached the security perimeter. Next, we will be challenged by the orbital traffic control.
Unidentified vessel. Your transponder may be malfunctioning. Please transmit your ship designation and flight plan. I cannot allow you to dock without proper... You're cleared for docking, sir.
Now we must avoid detection from the Vaadwaur ships. The hollow emitter will be essential.
The tunnels beneath the planet are protected by a subspace scattering field that our transporters cannot penetrate. I have found a safe location at the edge of this field, but once you beam down, you will need to make your way through the tunnels to the base itself. You are just outside of the Vaadwaur security perimeter. I have accessed their internal sensors, so I will provide you with tactical assistance throughout your mission. Be wary. There is a Vaadwaur patrol just ahead in the passage that crosses yours. Nearby, you should see a console. Use it to override the blast doors and trap the patrol. Be sure that the patrol is in the correct position before you activate the console, or this will fail. Logs at the facility indicate it is in poor repair and has suffered several mechanical mishaps. Use this to your advantage. Acts of sabotage that simulate equipment failures should not arouse suspicion.
Eternity, or at least until the power fails. But then why should time change him, whether he's fastened to one particular year or not? After all, he's not subject to the entropy and decay to which all flesh is heir. He's an unreal thing, a human creation, only a hologram. Or is he? Well, the microphone's tested out okay, Pally. Now, is this thing on? I can see the red light from here, Vic, and it looks like...
I am detecting a Vaadwaur patrol ahead. Maintain your position until they pass.
The wheels have finally started. And turning. Reels, kid. They're called reels. Don't look so worried about how this little recording session is gonna turn out. This baby's a transistorized, battery-powered trans. Flyweight Series 312 portable field recorder from the Amplifier Corporation of America. Top of the line.
I am detecting another group of Vaadwaur ahead. Access the security camera from the console nearby.
Cost me a bundle, too. It'll work just fine. That thing's portable. It must weigh as much as your piano. Hey, what do you want from me, kid? This is 1962.
If you overload that data tower, the Vaadwaur patrol will investigate. Program the door to seal them in.
But you didn't come all this way just to chit-chat with me about hi-fi systems. Am I right? Hi-fi?
Alert. Conduit malfunction on level 2, section Beta. Engineering teams respond immediately.
Excellent. Proceed cautiously.
Forget it, Pally. Let's catch up. Long time no hear from. I'm afraid work has been keeping me from visiting the station as often as I'd like.
There is a large drop ahead on your right. You will need a grapple gun to cross it.
Well, all work and no play can make Jake a dull boy. So what brings you back to the strip after all this time? Actually, Vic, work is what brought me here. I'm compiling an official...
You will need to incapacitate all of the Vaadwaur ahead. Insert the anesthetizine gas canister I provided you in the environmental control console and alter the air composition.
History of the Undying War. Interviewing some of the key participants. I just finished a session with Quark, and I couldn't pass up an opportunity to visit you before I leave the sector.
Alert. Environmental control malfunction on level 2, section Delta 3. Engineering and medical teams, please respond.
Should I recess it?
There is a large drop ahead. We'll have to rappel down.
So that's what you meant by interview request. I ought to warn you, though, I'm bound to be a disappointment, since my program is period-specific. An Undying War diary would be as out of place here as a manatee on a unicycle. Actually, Vic, you might be surprised by how relevant you are to what people will know about the Undying War. Well, maybe your experience isn't directly pertinent to the war itself, but there are some interesting...
You need to traverse this cavern without the Vaadwaur seeing you and raising the alarm. To do so, you will need to use your grapple gun, as well as take advantage of anything in the environment. First, you will need to reach the support platform. Shoot a grapple across and then zipline down.
Parallels. For instance, the Federation experienced some important social changes during the Long War years. I get it. Like those Rosie the Riveters who split from their kitchens for factory gigs back during WW2. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. You future folk may have conquered the stars.
To advance further through the cave, you will need to disable the proximity sensors. That console should allow you to do so. Now, zipline to that outcropping.
But you're still just as human as anybody from my era. And the world's bound to have at least a little unfairness in it as long as human beings are running the show. Exactly. Of course, the sociological experts will all...
In order to exit this cavern without detection, you will need a distraction. We will need to move the Vaadwaur guards below and ahead of you, away from the next support structure. The rocks near you are unstable. Try to trigger a collapse.
always argue about the details of the various cause and effect relationships, but the fact is that war always creates social upheaval, and social upheaval creates social change. I dig.
The way is clear for you to grapple to the next support structure.
But what I don't get is exactly what kind of changes you're talking about here. Like I said, my program is period specific.
Make your way across the ledges to the outcropping near the next support structure.
For me, 1962 is as stable as all the gold bullion in Fort Knox. Of course, thanks to the historical files in Deep Space Nine's computers, I know a lot about what's coming up after 1962. The Beatles are gonna take the stage away from guys like me. Civil rights aren't gonna stop at the front of the bus. There's women's liberation and the end of the Cold War. Some of these things are supposed to be in the very near future, at least from my 1962 POV. But thanks to the way Felix wrote my program, the very near future always turns out to be a mirage. New Year's Day 1963 sometimes gets almost close enough to spill your champagne on it, but in here, in my Las Vegas, it really might as well be as far away as the moon. But you're more than 400 years past any of that, Jake. So when I try to imagine whatever social change your world might be going through, well, I've gotta tell you.
There are more guards at the other platform. Use your tricorder to reprogram the anti-personnel turrets near them to attack the Vaadwaur targets.
Pally, you've lost me. Appropriately enough, time seems to stand still, even though no one has called a halt to the program. Vic's words hang in the air, like the handiwork of one of this era's skywriting aircraft. During that elastic moment, I am tempted to ask him what actually does happen here each and every New Year's Eve. Does the clock really just reset immediately to New Year's Day?
Attention. Malfunctioning turrets on Level 4, Section Beta 2. Security and Engineering Team, report immediately to Level 4.
The walkway is offline. We'll need to grapple across the gap. They are aware of your actions. You cannot delay. Sensors are reading something large blocking your route through the cavern. Activate the crane with the nearby controls to move it.
1962, one infinitesimal nanotick past the stroke of midnight. How many times can you remember the same thing happening? With a shudder, I realize that I'm very glad indeed that I'm not in Vic's shoes. I decide that I far prefer my ever-advancing slow march toward entropy and the oblivion beyond it to Vic's stasis. I put the sidle line of speculation aside, forcing myself back on topic in order to deal with Vic's confusion. I'm talking about civil rights, Vic. Like I said, a lot of it's sort of permanently over the horizon, at least for me.
There should be a place where you can drop down just ahead of your current position.
You see, I'm stuck in what Felix called a post-1962 Xenos paradox. Sorry, but if it happened after 62, then I can't experience it. That's not entirely true anymore, Vic. I'm talking about civil rights for synthetic persons. Rights for synthetic persons.
I am detecting some unusual signals coming from below this area. You must reach the bottom of the caverns. I recommend you overload a console to create a diversion, and then trap the Vaadwaur guarding the area in a force field.
You mean, for light bulbs like me. Light bulb sounds a little too much like a racial slur for my taste, Vic. How about using terms like self-aware holograms to describe people like you, or sapient androids for people like Captain Data? For years now, the Soong Foundation and other organizations have been lobbying the Federation Council to grant synthetics full rights under the UFP Constitution, including the right to vote and all the other protections that organic citizens like me get to take for granted. The upheaval created by the Undying War may have given the synthetic rights movement all the impetus it needed to bring these changes about. What do you think? What do I think? I think I'm glad I was already sitting down before you started talking about this. I noticed that Vic has begun to look unsteady, as though he's had too much to drink. I suddenly realize I've only seen him this distressed on one other occasion, when holographic gangsters took over his club and bodily threw him out of it, and I find myself regretting having barged into Vic's unchanging, comfortable world with such epic-making news. Vic sits quietly, processing what I've told him. Looking away from his discomfiture, I turn my gaze toward the stage where a period-appropriate jazz combo, a piano player.
Intruder alert! Commander Gallic, please respond!
An intruder?
A stand-up bassist, a drummer, a guitarist, and a couple of brass players has begun to tune up in preparation for Vic's next set. When I glance back at Vic, I can see that he wants to speak, but remains at a rare loss for words for nearly a minute. Crazy. Your foundations and councils are actually thinking about ending Jim Crow for the smaller bands. Some clever team of Starfleet legal eagles might even actually get it done. But I have to wonder how many of them would be comfortable with a hologram or an android marrying their sisters. Progress usually comes as 2 steps forward and 1 step back. I wouldn't know, Pally. I'm stuck in the same year forever. And since it's one of those years that's west of 1968, I'll never get to experience any of the progress you're talking about. As long as I'm period specific, I'll just have to be content with experiencing it all through somebody else's eyes. I'm sorry, Vic. I've been really insensitive. I had no idea you felt so.
You will pay for killing Gallic!
What?
Isolated from birthing in here. Hey, do I look isolated to you? Don't sweat it, Jake. I've got a good life here. Thanks to your father and his friends talking Quark into keeping my program running 26/7. I'm grateful for that. Sure, I wouldn't have known that the Beatles were coming if somebody from the outside world hadn't let me read about them in the station's computer banks. But on the flip side...
What was that thing?
Symbiote.
You saved my life. I don't know why, but I am grateful. What was that thing? It crawled out of the commander. Was it controlling him? Never. It's some kind of parasite, isn't it? What do you know? Do you believe other members of the Vaadwaur are infected by these beasts? Could all of our leaders be contaminated? I know my duty. I cannot allow you to wander freely through our compound. But I can't ignore this either. A temporary truce, then. I will accompany you, and if what you say is true, I must know how many of my people have been taken. I think it went down that passage over there. It It went down one of the cracks in the rock. We'll have to deactivate that force field to pursue it.
I also know they're never gonna actually get here. As long as it's 1962, I'll never have to worry about going out of style. That's what I always like best about you, Vic. You're optimistic almost to a fault. Guilty is charged. Now I have a question for you. Why would your war with, who is it again? The Undyne. Geez, it sounds like you've been fighting off a bunch of French lingerie models. Why would this particular war push civil rights for androids and holograms onto the front burner? I mean, why didn't the Dominion War do it?
It appears the creature has already left the area. I would recommend you scan the area with your tricorder. Perhaps it left a hormonal trace you can follow.
Or one of your big dust-ups with the Borg. I've been wondering that a lot myself lately, Vic. I've interviewed grunt soldiers, ivory tower academics, and everything in between. And I've asked a lot of them the same question you just asked me. The best theory I can come up with is that the idea of being replaced by Undyne infiltrators terrified human beings on a really deep and profound level. It's apparently had the same effect on Vulcans, Andorians, Tellarites, Klingons, Romulans, and on down the list. It's such a fundamental, existential fear that it's made everyone question what it really means to be.
I didn't know these caves were so extensive. Only the highest leadership is allowed down here.
Human or Klingon or whatever, in a way that even our scariest encounters with the founders of the Dominion never did. The only thing.
How did the Vaadwaur come into contact with parasites in the first place? It's been many years since Starfleet encountered them.
I wonder how many of our leaders have been infected. Surely Gallic can't be the only one.
That's become crystal clear to me is that I don't have a very good answer to your question. At least I can't find an answer that justifies synthetic people being exploited as a slave race. We sit in contemplative silence.
Based on Starfleet's previous encounters with the parasites, you should be extremely cautious. The creatures show remarkable cunning.
Give me an enemy I can confront face to face. This deception sickens me.
They are insidious. These creatures nearly ended the Federation. Although we have had our differences with the Vaadwaur, the Federation do not wish to see any species enslaved.
This area has always been off limits. I expected some kind of hive. This is just a storage room. I see some of our stasis modules, which means there are soldiers who have not been rewoken. But the rest of this? Just supplies. There's nothing here that will prove what you claim. Perhaps this infection was limited to just one man.
And said that the round of martinis that a convenient barmaid brought us while I was answering Vic's question. It's a long time before either of us speaks, and Vic beats me to it. So how does it all end up, Callie? End up for us light bulbs, holograms, I mean, and for the androids too. I realize belatedly that Vic is now the one who's conducting this interview, not me. But that's Vic all over, isn't it? It's the way Vic quietly sizes his guests up so that he can always provide advice that they can really use, even if they don't always quite realize it at the time. I do my best to gather my thoughts.
Ah, I see you've met my little friends. They want to get to know you better.
What are you? How far has this infestation spread?
You have such a small mind. The joining will help. You will see everything we can be once we are brothers of the skin.
To bring him up to speed on the latest developments on the synthetic civil rights front. Well, let's look at some of the recent box scores. An android was officially declared a person in 2365, and Starfleet's JG office upheld that decision 21 years later. That same android is now in command of the Federation's flagship, a hologram who served aboard the U.S.S. Voyager fought for 11 years to get the fetter.
Mere mortals. We will rise again, and you will know our true life.
This ends now. I cannot allow you to spread this infestation.
Asian Supreme Court to recognize his personnel and finally prevailed. And the Soon Foundation is on the verge of creating a mobile holometer that will allow self-aware holograms to live independently in the outside world. You mean outside of the holosuits? That's the plan. And the holo programmer who created you, Vic, has helped to create a new version of your program for Starfleet under the supervision of Captain Deanna Troy, formerly of the U.S.S. Hytron. Crazy. Not that I think I'm perfect or anything, but why would Felix take a mulligan on my program? It's for the new ECH, the emergency counseling hologram that some of Starfleet's new ships have started carrying as a supplement to the emergency medical holograms that have been in use since back in the 70s. It's really just an extension of the service you've been providing to the crew of DS9 for years anyway. I'm just a hardworking entertainer, pal. If a little crooning from a close relative of mine can bring some distraction to an overworked Starfleet officer's life, then all. Those hours rehearsing with the band seem a lot more worthwhile. But I think I dig where the Starfleet head shrinkers are coming from. Healthy body, healthy mind, right? Exactly. So what you're saying is, it hasn't really ended. What hasn't ended? The synthetic rights struggle you've been telling me about. The Undying War might be behind us, knock on wood, but the other fight's still being slugged out. A complete light bulb bill of rights might be headed in my direction, but it's still over the horizon, even from where you're sitting. Maybe that's true right now, but it won't be forever, and it's not as though you have any shortage of time. So for you, Vic, some of that change will come. No matter what your Felix might have stuck your program in. Not for me, Pally. Maybe this Vic 2.0 you just told me about will see the promised land.
The Vaadwaur are alerted to your presence. You must leave the facility. But the subspace scattering field is still in effect. Find the controls and disable them. Find the controls to the subspace scattering field and disable them.
But me, I'm part and parcel of Felix's 1962, and I always will be. I might take one small step or two for a light bulb, but it'll have to.
Although you have helped the Vaadwaur people today, do not believe this makes us friends, or even allies. No, I must remain with my people. Perhaps I will discover more of what's really happening here.
Your activities on the surface have alerted the Vaadwaur to your presence. They are beginning to inspect the starships in orbit. I would recommend returning to the ship immediately.
The information you discovered in the base is troubling. While Starfleet knew the neural parasites found on Earth sent a signal to deep space before they were destroyed, we never knew the destination of that signal. It very well may have been the Delta Quadrant. However, contemplating the ramifications of parasites among the Vaadwaur ranks must wait. The fleet protecting this planet has been alerted to our presence. It is only a matter of time before this vessel is discovered.
Be a later model of me that finally takes that one giant leap for light will kind. As the interview winds down to its conclusion, I consider pointing out that Vic has made a number of anachronistic references.
Unidentified vessel. Your transponder codes are invalid. Security vessels are on their way. Please hold position and prepare to be boarded.
There is only a 0.008% chance that this ship will survive a direct confrontation. One last act of sabotage may be what is required. I propose we swap transponder codes with another vessel. Given the aggressiveness of the Vaadwaur, there is a 68.4% chance they will turn on one another. We can escape in the confusion.
The Beatles' late 1962nd social unrest, and the first Apollo lunar landing, which might be considered hopeful signs of his untapped capacity to transcend his program, and perhaps even time and space itself. But for once, Vic, The man who gave my friend Nog so much encouragement after a Dominion War injury had nearly taken his will to live, doesn't appear to be in the mood for hope. I'm beginning to wish that I'd stayed away from the holosuit as Vic drains what's left of his martini, bids me a quiet farewell, and then mounts the stage upon which his jazz combo waits to begin the set. To Vic's credit, he performs with all the ease and charm I remember from the time of the Dominion War. He jokes with the dinner crowd and trades good-natured barbs with,
Well, you're alive. I guess that means the holo emitter did its job. But it did work. Contract complete.
Excellent work. Now that we know at least some of the Vaadwaur have been taken over by the neural parasites, we can form an appropriate plan of action. The one Vaadwaur who helped you, Commander Elvex, may be of assistance. It was clear that he was not aware of the corruption. With your permission, I will return to Voyager. There is much still to do before we will see the end of the Vaadwaur threat. Thank you again. Live long and prosper.
the Madison Avenue advertising executives he mentioned earlier. Then he wows his audience with renditions of some familiar tunes from his standard set list.
The existence of the neural parasites certainly explains the unusual physical abilities of the Vaadwaur, and perhaps their rapid return to prominence in the sector. You managed to take out 2 of their overseers, but I expect that more of their leadership has been infected. Perhaps this Commander Eldax can persuade more of his people to rebel against the infected Vaadwaur from within. But until then, we'll need to muster our allies and prepare to deal with this threat. We're not just facing the Vaadwaur anymore.
Wow, we facing all kind of folk, huh?
Hello. Would you have time to look into something for me?
Dang. That's not too bad, though.
The data from your mission against the Vaadwaur shows they're a bigger threat
cool.
than we ever
That's good.
anticipated. Our forces are stretched thin. The Alpha Quadrant Alliance cannot fight a prolonged conflict in the Delta Quadrant. We must work to form an alliance of species here. Admiral Tuvok and Captain Kim are working on a plan and have requested your assistance.
Transwarp. Yeah, I think he said maybe about like 4 or 5 times already, like, okay, I'll see you later. Alright, live well. Okay, hey. Oh yeah, I need another help. Need some more help. It's alright though, it's not bad or not. No, it's just like, I keep running to you, man. What's going on? They're like a number or something, aren't they? Hey. You again.
Admiral Tuvok is in the conference room with the other members of the task force. Follow me, please. I'll take you to him.
Lead the way, Commander.
Seems like we're never gonna get you that tour. Sorry.
Oh, it's alright.
The others are waiting for you in the conference room.
Let's see. Conference room.
Let us begin. While the Kobali and the Benthans have agreed to join our alliance, there are many other races in the Delta Quadrant in a position to help us defeat the Vaadwaur. It will be up to us to show them the benefits of joining us. 7, I would like you to contact the Cooperative.
The Cooperative should be amenable to our offer. They have as much to lose as we do.
Neelix, your experience as a trader makes you an excellent choice to work with the Hazari.
The Hazari? This won't be easy, but I should be able to pull it off.
Captain Kim, we've arranged a meeting for you with the leaders of several Kazon sects.
I don't trust the Kazon, but I'll give it my best effort.
Doctor, you have experience with the hierarchy. I would like you to infiltrate one of their ships and learn more about how they make decisions.
Ooh, I have several new subroutines that will be perfect for this mission.
As for you, I would like you to visit the Touré and the Octanti, and then provide support to any of the others who require it.
So you got me doing all the brute force. Very nice.
We need allies to turn the tide of this war. We cannot fail.
You can leave if you return to the transporter room, though there is some time to speak with the crew.
Alright, go ahead and see what they're talking about real quick.
The cooperative should be amenable to our alliance. I foresee no problems and should not require your assistance. I will inform you if the situation changes.
Straight up, as usual.
The Kazon are argumentative and difficult. Getting them on our side will be tricky. I'll be negotiating with the leaders of 5 of the clans. While I hope to bring them all on board, I'll be happy if we get 1 or 2. The Rhode Island is a tough ship, but I'd be grateful if you could bring your ship to the negotiations. The Kazon respect a show of force, and your ship might be just the thing we need to sway them to our side.
Very well, Captain.
You too.
I never thought I'd be a spokesperson for this alliance myself. And to the Hazari! I guess all my time as a trader and ambassador made Admiral Tuvok think I was the right Talaxian for the job. Knowing that you and your crew have my back is a great relief. The Hazari are tough negotiators.
I agree.
This is going to be interesting. I've never really tested my field intelligence subroutines, but Admiral Tuvok assures me they will perform well. He has been assisting me with the programming, and I've made an extensive study of intelligence and information gathering on my own. I may require you to interact with the hierarchy and make the alliance offer to them. If they think it's the best financial option, they may agree to join us.
One likes the sound of that. Now, that's a nice little console you got going on over there.
First I thought that was like a clean one,
No, it's just kitty. Girl or man. Not sure which one. Yeah. Admiral.
The Touré and the Octante have worked with us in the past. You should not find it difficult to make a convincing case for a renewed alliance.
I will head to the transporter room and return to my ship. Good old Tuvok. Very nice walk. Girl, don't you scramble.
Ready to beam you back to your ship, sir.
Alrighty. I trust you.
Russ Morgan's your nobody till somebody loves you comes first, followed by Arlen and Kohler's I've got the world on a string, and Coleman and Lee's the best is yet to come. With the steady support of the band, he seems to draw strength from the act of singing itself, almost as though it is a kind of therapy for him. It reminds me of the way I often take refuge.
That's close enough. This is restricted space, and you're not welcome.
We're on a diplomatic mission. We wish to speak to your government about the security matters that will not just affect your homeworld, but the entire Delta Quadrant.
We don't need your advice. Our Voth allies are more than strong enough to help us.
Since you don't speak for your government, I suggest you connect me to someone who does.
Very well. Ambassador Norik will speak with you now. Don't waste his time like you've wasted mine.
Finally.
What is the meaning of this?
Ambassador, I would like to extend an offer from the Admiral Tuvok and the rest of the Alliance Command for you to join our fight against the Vaadwaur.
We want no more alliances. The Touré have a mutual defense pact with the Voth, and it is quite sufficient for our needs.
I see. No Voth ships in the system. Ambassador, if you recall, it was my crew and I who helped restore your defense grid back online during the initial Vaadwaur attack.
Begone! I do not wish to order our pickets to fire upon you, but I will if I must. The Voth are on their way. I'm sure.
The world by the law, creative act of writing. While Vic performs, I down 2 more Martinez, real ones, not synthahol, which is something I never do. Abashed at having dragged an old friend down into melancholy, not to mention being sorely tempted to follow him I decide I've done enough damage for one day. As Vic finishes up his regular set of journeys, can't take it away from me. I rise unsteadily and head for the policy door, remembering as I exit not to shut down Vic's program, which has been running continuously since the final months of the Dominion War. I wonder, however, whether Vic would think of the shutdown as a mercy. Then I hear his encore, a long, slow melody that sounds out of place amid the swingerous standards that comprise Vic Fontaine's traditional musical form. Out of place, but not inappropriate. After a few beats of Vic's guitar playing, the band, apparently as surprised as I am, finds its way into the tune, hesitantly at first, and then with enough fear to sweep the audience along with it, transforming confused.
Attention any flagship! This is a priority emergency! We are under attack!
Bows into wincing smiles and finally, enthusiastic applause. I pause on the policy expression, knowing in a rush that I will leave feeling uplifted rather than downcast. Vic was singing a nearly 5-century-old anthem, and onto the struggles of the press and the government's everywhere. But I sing it with him. We shall deliver. Jake Sickbay, data R.R.W-J53, Federation Starship Temple, near the Phobos Nebula. Although the Excalibur-class starship that has carried me out to the ragged edge of the Romulan neutral zone has been in service for nearly 20 years, its design is rather recent. Originally commissioned back in the simple, clean lines of this vessel look a simpler, more romantic period in the Federation's nearly quarter-millennium-long history, the time when America's Constitution-class heavy cruisers plied a largely unexplored galaxy, doggedly expanding a volume of known space that the Federation's present territory now dwarfs, being one of Starfleet's most versatile ships of the line of the U.S.S. Tucker has drawn the job of performing the Federation Science Council's mandated annual survey of the Phobos Nebula, and the mysterious, still active stellar remnant now known as the Phobos cinder that pulsates at the center of the mysterious, parsecs deep shell of expanding gas, plasma, and radiation that comprises the remains of the infamous Phobos supernova. I am fortunate to have timed my interview to coincide with this week's survey mission, whose subject is of considerable historical and scientific significance. Back in 2387, Phobos caused one of the worst catastrophes in Beta Quadrant history, the utter destruction of Romulus and Remus, the co-orbiting central worlds of the Romulan Star Empire. The repercussions of this event may be in fighting that followed Shinzon's assassination of the Romulans, sending in 2379 look like a holiday. Admiral Catherine Janeway, in command of the Tucker for the duration of the current scientific survey mission, greets me warmly in her ready room, rising from behind a surprisingly smart desk to shake my hand. The hollow images I can see of the Admiral holding expecting someone with a much sterner manner. Certain pictures of Janeway, evidently taken early in the command career, had shown her shoulder-length brown hair, gathered into a bun so severe as to make me imagine the ship's barber and chief engineer working together frantically to adjust its tension to prevent it from injuring every innocent bystander. I'd always thought she'd be taller as well, generally larger. But whatever Janeway might lack in physical stature, she more than compensates for the air of authority and sheer presence that surrounds her. Catherine Janeway comes off as a veteran flag officer, tempered by the U.S.S. Voyager's legendary sectors. The passage of time since the voyage ended has made her a silver-haired Starfleet eminence, albeit one with an unmistakable grain of soft-facing humor, questing and ever-curious scientist's eyes. During our discussion, Janeway pauses periodically to gaze toward the ready room's wide transparent through which we can both see the faded oscillations of the Phobos cinder through the distortion of the surrounding nebula. amber haze. The supernova's gradually cooling corpse seems to twitch metronomically, pulsating like a distant, sinister heartbeat. The effect is both horrific and hypnotic. Janeway seems to have to work as hard as I do to tear her gaze away from the apparition in the window. Then she focuses her full attention on the art of explaining this complex subject with simplicity and clarity. As I listen, I begin to understand why she excelled as a science officer during an early phase of her Starfleet career. But I also get a sense of how formidable a command officer she is when some of my more probing quests. Challenge regarding though she appears to have no problem keeping deep, smoldering anger and check behind her enemy. Matic smiles. I have to wonder how many times she may have asked herself many of the same questions I'm raising her, and whether she privately believes herself or family to enact an early and lasting peace with the environment. After all, history has given her most of the credit, some might say blame, for making humanity's first contact with the environment. Thank you for allowing me to observe your present mission. Delighted to have you aboard, Mr. Sickbay. This isn't the first time you've investigated the remains of the Phobos supernova, is it? You might say that. I oversaw one of the first short-range surveys of the Phobos stellar remnant back nearly a year after the mission. It took that long for the hard radiation and subspace effects to die down enough to let us risk getting any closer than 2 light years from the Phobos cinder itself. Prior to that, we had to settle for whatever data we could collect from the Medes asterisk array. Isn't it unusual for a supernova's effects to linger for such a long time? Yes and no. I mean, the actual explosion itself into a supernova usually peaks, tapers off, and then fades into the background after a fairly short time. But during the few weeks or months while the actual kaboom phase of the supernova lasts, the blast can emit as much energy as Earth's sun might produce over the course of its entire 10 billion year lifespan, which is why approaching an active supernova requires extreme caution. You shouldn't try this at home. Aren't the chances fairly remote that a supernova like Phobos can endanger the inhabitants? That's a tough one to answer, since before the Phobos disaster, asterisk nobody had ever seen a supernova behave the way this one did. But I can say that an inhabited world getting sucked at by a regular, garden variety supernova is very definitely more probable than Phobos is an entirely different thing. Apart from what it did to Romulus, how specifically was the Phobos event different from the typical supernova explosion? The problem with Phobos is that it's so unlike anything else known to science. So let's start by taking a look at some of the more typical stellar explosions. Our galaxy usually experiences one of those about twice every century. I'm surprised to hear they're that rare. My layman's impression is that they occur a lot more frequently than that. I mean, a whole bunch of them happened during the time of Delta Quadrant. And closer to home, there was the Beta Stromberg supernova about 40 years ago, and the one that almost wiped out the binaries of Beta Magellan a couple of years before that. I can see you've done your homework, Mr. System. And yes, during recent decades we may have seen a few more supernovas, but that overabundance turns out to be statistically insignificant when you factor in the intervention of the Q continuum. The so-called collateral damage from their civil war back in the 2,370 seconds touched off a whole series of supernovae. Did the Q cause all those supernovae deliberately, or was it an accident? I was never able to settle that question. I think the best answer is to believe whichever answer costs you the least amount of sleep. I start to experience the same queasy in the pit of the stomach feeling I always used to get whenever the wormhole aliens, the prophets of Badger, would monkey around with my father's so-called destiny. There's something about functionally omnipotent beings, whether they be prophets who manipulate the lives of individuals, or Q superintellects who blow apart entire solar systems the way children typically happens, that offends my fundamental sense of the fairness of the universe. I try to push the notion of mad or careless gods out of my mind even as I struggle to keep my gaze from drifting back to the Hobus Cinder. I renew my concentration on the Admiral, who was continuing in former science officer lecture mode. Luckily for us, the Milky Way is a very big place, which means that most of the time life manages to dodge the bullet whenever a supernova occurs, and that bullet takes the form of intense bursts of highly energetic radiation. Fortunately, Class M worlds typically have two significant layers of protection: their local stellar magnetosphere and their own planetary magnetic field. So the incoming supernova radiation just gets turned aside, the way as starships deflect their shields ward off incoming phaser beams. Exactly. Unless, of course, the supernova happens close enough to a planet so that the radiation output simply overwhelms the planet's shields. How close would a supernova have to be in order to do that? That depends on which type of supernova we're talking about. And that, in turn, depends upon its mass and composition. In general, the larger the stellar mass, the shorter the stellar lifespan, the time from birth to burn, and the bigger the explosion at the end of the star's life. Without going through the whole supernova bastion, let's just say it's now common wisdom that the Ordovician mass extinction on Earth nearly 500 million years ago was the result of a supernova that occurred at about a 100 light-year distance. That one stellar event wiped out almost 60% of Earth's ocean-dwelling species, and the effects of that extinction lingered for tens of millions of years afterward. In spite of myself, I glance again across the desk of Hobus's golden carcass. Suddenly I feel as though I'm sitting way too close to the thing. In my mind it's become a predator that merely lies injured rather than safely dead. 100 light years away, and it still did that kind of damage. Is that fairly typical? Again, that depends on the exact kind of supernova we're talking about. The type Roman II specimen would have to be around a quarter of the distance from the Class M world to start doing the release. On the other hand, one of those dim, sneaky type I supernova could cause the same amount of havoc from over 3,000 light years away. Phobos was something like 500 light years away from Romulus. Shouldn't that have been a wide enough separation to keep the Romulan Empire's continent safe from anything except a type I supernova in Phobos, as we discovered the hard way 20 years ago? And something else has just occurred to me, even assuming that the Hobus supernova's effects were bound to cross the 500 light years or thereabouts, that separated the explosion from Romulus and Venus. Shouldn't those planets still have been safe for at least another 500 years? I mean, natural thing. Noma aren't supposed to be able to live ways, right? Mr. Cisco, just put your finger on the major difference between Hobus and every other supernova that's ever been observed. The first thing that bothered me about the Hobus event was the fact that its effects were somehow complicated in space at multiple speeds. As a general rule, that's impossible, with the exception of certain spaceport cosmos. Asterisk natural phenomena simply can't travel faster than the speed of light. The Romulan Senate must have been counting on the general rule as well, since they rejected a massive response analysis to Hobus spread out and shortly before the supernova occurred. They even ignored warnings about Hobus from their own Romulan planet. It was far easier for them to believe that the Federation was trying to fool them with some elaborate ruse than it was for them to take the massive response warnings at face value. But let's be fair, without the benefit of hindsight, the reaction is easy enough to understand. You have to take into account the isolationist psychology they've embraced for so long, almost since their ancient ancestors persuaded them. That also explains the accusations that Proconsul Sella made against us after the supernova wiped out Romulus, that the disaster was really caused by some new Federation weapon. As it turned out, the charge was pure psychological projection. Sella blamed us for Hobus in order to cover up the nuclear weapons experiments that were probably the real cause of the Hobus explosion. I wonder if the jury might still be out on that. I'm surprised to hear you say that, Admiral.
While your ship may be for is still no match for the Voth. We have already chosen our ally. What can you offer that the Voth cannot? You have given us much to think about.
Your efforts to recruit the Touré were successful. We are reaching out to their embassy
Those ships,
to begin our cooperation.
those ships are just tough. They're fast. They have mines. I don't know. I don't know if there's like faster way, any way that's faster and taking them out,
on
but
my way with some cooperative ships.
it seemed like
Enough to get them onto our side, but the real problem now is with the Octanti. The Octanti consul should be at your location now. Please begin discussions without us. We shall be there soon.
awesome.
Greetings. I am Ambassador Relic of the Armory. I've examined the proposal your government's transmitted, and I'm afraid the Octanti people must decline. The Federation, the Klingon Empire, and the Romulan Republic all give rank and commissions to Borg drones. You call them liberated, but they are still Borg. The Borg drove us off our homeworld and massacred our people. An alliance with them would be unthinkable. Borg are Borg. We will not join your alliance, and we never will. Our people have lost too much already. I won't be led into another unwinnable war.
I know those like tribbles, man.
This is 7
I don't even understand them myself.
For the Octanti.
We are in communication with them.
Ambassador Rarick, the Cooperative has a problem with which they require your assistance. An Octanti synthetic virus has infected a recently liberated cube, causing severe problems for the fragile consciousnesses of the former drones. They are falling to madness. Our sensors show the cube is moving in this direction. You are in danger. Unknown. We need the Octanti to transmit the shutdown code for the synthetic virus. If done quickly, the liberated Borg aboard the cube may recover.
Never. If the virus infected them, then our work is done. They will destroy themselves.
It's arriving now. Your time is up.
And like I was telling someone earlier, I need like a new deflector and
Lower your prepare.
they're just like old. I got like a old
Ambassador, please deactivate the virus. There are thousands of liberated Borg on that cube.
could use a deflector. I just said those are
Borg
I could use
light.
one.
The only course of action is extermination.
Of course I'll get one sooner or later, but just haven't yet. But that's one of the things. I was like looking at my warp core, I'm like, whoa, this thing's old. The Borg. Okay, what is this?
Rarick! Where is Rarick? I know he is here. Please, deactivate virus. Ah!
Mask? Is that you? That's my brother. He and 4 other Octanti volunteered to be infected with the virus. They were taken by the Borg 7 years ago.
Volunteered?
I thought he was lost to us. Deactivating now. It's not working. The cube's automated defenses are too strong. We'll need to weaken it before I can transmit the code.
Infected cube. Disable it. Shoot, they're gonna take care of it.
From what I read in the logs from your original Hobus survey mission, it seems pretty clear that the Romulans were secretly working on the You caught them trying to cover up a program aimed at adapting captured Borg technology into powerful subspace weaponry, in a program that blatantly violated several treaties the Romulans had signed, are not disputed. They were violating the weapons clauses of those treaties. I've just never been entirely convinced that whatever experiments the Romulans lost control of right before the Phobos event were quite powerful enough to have touched on the supernovas originally behind. Something else might have been behind it. Something else. Or someone else. Like maybe the Undying. I wouldn't go quite that far. At least not yet. Not until I find some real proof. You're speaking in the present tense, Admiral. Does that mean you're still looking for that evidence? Let's just say I've always been inclined to keep an open mind about the subject. You must have seen something on that first survey mission back in '88. Perhaps something that made you suspect that the Undying may have played a role in setting off the Phobos supernova. Do you mind talking about that mission? Certainly. We took a small vessel, a variant of the original Delta Flyer that Tom Paris, Yelena Torres, and Harry Kim designed when Voyager was stranded in the Delta Quadrant. Wouldn't a small ship have been more vulnerable to the effects of the supernova than a larger vessel would have been? It was a calculated risk, but it was one we were all willing to take given the advanced multiphasic shielding the shuttle was carrying. Besides, a larger vessel ran the risk of attracting unwanted Romulan attention, and our relations with what was left of the Romulan Star Empire at the time weren't exactly cozy. Starfleet needed precise measurements of the Phobos phenomenon, and our task was to gather them as quickly and as discreetly as possible. A small ship means a small crew. Who did you take with you? I brought along a small group of volunteers, all of them seasoned Starfleet veterans. They'd begun working with me shortly after the astrophysics people started analyzing the first long-range sensor scans of Phobos the previous year, and after you ran an analysis of your own, I'd imagine. Without getting too technical, can you spell some of your tentative conclusions out for us? Let's just say I had the misfortune of noticing the sensor profile of the Phobos event bore a strong resemblance to that of the McAllister C5 nebula back when 8472 was using it as a portal from fluidic space to our own universe. It's ironic. Despite their superficial similarities to each other, both nebulae are essentially gaseous clouds that surround a central mass. They're very different feet. Known. The expanding Phobos Nebula.
Rarick, we intercepted a transmission about your meeting. It was right. You were here. I fought the madness to get to you. Dangerous. But I knew you would not abandon us. Thank you.
Mashk, I'm so overjoyed to see you. I never believed in this liberation idea. It was a fantasy, grieving, but having seen it firsthand, hearing my brother's voice again, maybe I shouldn't have been so willing to dismiss hope. I will see that the Aktanti people seriously consider your proposal. We need to reconsider many things.
We knew recruiting the Aktanti was going to be problematic. You did exceptionally well with a very difficult task.
Oh, thank goodness you've arrived! I'm trying to work with the Hazari, but they are a demanding lot. They're using this opportunity to milk the Benthans for everything they've got. To say the least. First, they want the Benthans to void the warrants of 3 of the Hazari, Niken, Yakela, and Negrasa. Then they want 2 prisoners released. And if that weren't enough, they're demanding bounty hunting licenses for the Ramar, Zilnan, and Osprinti systems.
Pleasure to see you again. I assume you can speak with more authority than this Talaxian. Then I wish you good luck. Your offer is tempting, but we simply don't have any help to give you. All of my resources have to be focused on the Benthans breathing down our necks.
The Benthans usually have a ship patrolling this area of the system. It's a neutral ground, but they know what can happen in neutral areas. The ship should be able to contact the Benthan High just a car for us. The Benthans keep a close eye on this system. Lots of deals are made here.
I am High Justicar Mathan. I was told you needed to speak to me on a critical matter. Oh? How can we assist you? It's always demands when it comes to the Hazari. Demands, deals, and contracts. Transmit their list. I haven't had a good laugh in days. There's no way we'd agree to all this. I'm sorry. Good point. I can rescind the warrants for Niken and Yakela, but not Negrasa. He's caused too much trouble to let him go free. And the prisoners, I'll exchange them for Nikedin, if the Hazari will give him up. He's been raising havoc in 3 sectors. I'll give them one of the systems for hunting, but not all 3. Let them choose which one they want.
Will they give us what we want? Of course we knew they wouldn't give us everything. But if you don't ask for everything, you won't get anything. What? Oh, I mean good. Let's see here. We give the Benthans Nikedin, and we get 2 of our captains back? Done. Nikedin is a Bashik Monar. I think the closest translation we have to your language is a pit where you throw your pack animal. Take him, but he won't go without a fight. Sure, I'll draw up the contract. Just transmit your authorization and you've got a deal. As soon as the Benthans deliver, the Hazari are part of your alliance. Nikedin is in hiding, but I'll give you an encoded signal to lure him out. He'll think it's one of our ships giving him the all-clear. You can use one of the Benthan satellites nearby to relay the signal. We send signals on them all the time. It'll lend to your credibility.
A trap? Fine. I'll kill you then, my so-called friends.
Is essentially shrouded around the corpse while the collapsing Alistair Network is below the blank and swarming the stellar infant. They are at opposite ends of their respective life cycles, a burned-out sector of the Proto-Star. But either object was a plausible candidate for having developed a spatial rift that 8472 might be able to exploit. I'd like to talk for a moment about your crew and their first for this mission and specify both about their prior experience. Actually, none of them had ever had any direct contact with 8472, at least not at that point in their careers. But they had all read the unclassified descriptions of Voyagers by the department parents, so they knew about the secret Brig Starfleet training facilities that the Undying had set up throughout Delta Quadrant space back in the 2370 seconds. The Terraspheres. Species 8472.
Fine. I won't lose my ship and crew for this. You've beaten me. What? The Benthans? I thought I'd be going to one of your prisons. I can escape from one of those in a week. Lowering shields now. Just don't vaporize me.
We should take our prisoner to that Benthan patrol ship.
Vincent. It's Vincent's control ship. Okay, that one.
The Hazari seem a little too happy about this outcome. Even if Yadren doesn't like Nikedrin, I didn't think he'd be so quick to give him up to the Benthans. I don't think that's the case.
On behalf of all the Hazari, thank you for delivering that Gratok Nikedin to the Benthans. Oh, what can it hurt now? We've got an airtight contract. Remember those hollow emitters we got from that Ferengi? He also sold us a nice, personal-sized one with a low-emission power pack. We gave that one to Nikedon. Right about now, he should be slipping out of the Brig and into the crew of that Benthan cruiser you delivered him to. A spy on the High Justicar's ship. We'll know everything. Not so fast. Our contract specifically states that you cannot interfere in the matter of Captain Nikedon once you have delivered him to the Benthans. Telling them would be the very definition of interference.
Is there anything else you need? That explains those strange energy readings. The Nikedon's already out of the Brig. I'll start bioscans. We'll root him out. Thank you.
And that's done. I'll meet you back at Voyager.
You did the right thing. I am sure the Benthans are grateful that you revealed a spy in their midst. It is unfortunate that you could not keep the Hazari in the Alliance, but not every choice we make has a completely positive outcome.
Sister Doc.
The Undying built and operated at least a dozen of them. They were deep space habitats, each of which contained pretty damn convincing duplicates of San Francisco and Starfleet headquarters, including a simulacrum of Starfleet Academy. This was where 8,472...
Hello again. I thought it would be best if I used your bridge's hollow emitters for this conversation.
Okay.
I'm currently in disguise on board the Hierarchy ship as one of those potato-looking fellows, and I don't think you want to see any more of this than you have to. The Hierarchy assume I'm one of the crew. I've begun a review of their cost analysis matrix, which is what they use to determine if any particular course of action will be profitable. Right now, their ship is running silent, which means they're cloaked, and all higher-level computer functions are locked out. I need those to complete my review. You need to convince them to decloak. Hail them. Show them their cloak isn't enough to hide them from the Alliance. Then, you might be able to convince them to join. The ship is currently cloaked by one of the nav beacons in this region of space. Just head to the nav beacon, and you'll get their attention. The Hierarchy once corrupted my programming in an attempt to spy on Voyager. This seems fitting. These subroutines are quite useful. Perhaps I'll write a holonovel about my experiences as a spy.
He's funny. I always thought he was a cool doctor. Let's see. Well, hollow doctor, I guess.
That's close enough. I don't want any trouble, but I would like to know how you knew our location. Don't tell us your secrets and we won't tell you ours. As for your offer of an alliance, give me a moment to consider it.
The Hierarchy is consulting the cost analysis matrix. This is exactly what I needed. This is going to take some time. We'll need to stall them while I get what I need.
I am sorry, but the Hierarchy has evaluated the investment needed for such an undertaking, and we find that the Alliance ships are...
A free pack of what? I think I've gotten all the free packs.
There's no problem.
Whenever I got it.
Losing. We'll stay out of this fight.
I have an idea. Follow my lead.
A free pack for what, though? Or unless they got a new one.
Perhaps we could
I caught myself getting all the free packs when I got it.
I could reroute the
downloaded it
through our main deflector dish and create convincing holographic targets for them to fight.
You could do that. Very well. That will show us what these Alliance ships are capable of. Then we'll run the numbers again. Are you ready to prove your worth?
No.
2 holographic Borg probes coming up.
Borg probes? Hardly a challenge. I want something big. Give me a Voth bulwark. Also, I don't care if they can just defeat the hologram. I want to see how well this person works with their crew. Anyone could throw firepower at something. It's another thing to be a good manager of people.
1 Voth bulwark coming up.
Brought their infiltrators and training up to speed on how to live undetected in human form, even among trained Starfleet officers. Not even the founders of the Dominion, with their own shape-changing abilities and their penchant for subterfuge, had ever tried to infiltrate us on such a massive scale. I've read your reports about Voyagers encountering terrorists, at least the ones that are published. It looked as though you had reached some kind of agreement with the Undying back in 2375. You appear to have left them convinced that the Federation didn't pose a threat to them, and that they therefore didn't need to prepare for war against us. I thought so too, at least for a while. Obviously, I only managed to convince one small segment of 8,472 to leave us alone with that. After all, there were at least 11 other terrorists out there that we never encountered. At least 8,472 proved that we humanoids don't have a monopoly on paranoia. Your reports about the Terrasphere 8 encounter make it pretty clear why the members of your initial Hobus survey team volunteered for the mission, even if they hadn't yet had any direct contact with anybody. Because they had read the very same reports that you did, each member of my team knew that they had already been touched by 8,472, despite them never having.
Done. Now you can finish off the ball.
Scene 1 in the flesh. Those reports motivated Captain Valerie Archer and Commander Keynes to volunteer to be my pilots. Lieutenant Commander O'Halloran, an astrophysics specialist, wrote on the specialized sensor package we were carrying because of what he read in my reports. And Lieutenant Commander David Gentry volunteered to handle tactical, just in case we encountered anything that was needed for a fight. That was because each and every member of that crew knew that
I don't believe it. Run the numbers again. Very well. It seems that we underestimated you. If other ships are like yours, we'll gladly join your alliance.
Excellent work, Doctor. Your recordings of the hierarchy's cost analysis matrix will be a great benefit to Starfleet intelligence. And you. I must say, bringing the hierarchy into the Alliance is quite unexpected. I thought it would take weeks of back-channel negotiations to make any progress with them at all. Thank you for taking a risk. Your show of power must have been most impressive.
Because it's the last one.
Glad to see you. It seems the Kazon don't believe we have enough ships to stop the Vaadwaur. I keep telling them we'll have the numbers if we work together, but they keep insisting they need more information.
More ships! I demand to see more! Our scouts reported seeing Voyager in the Delta Quadrant again. We want to see that ship.
Yes. I wonder... I'm going to try something. Things might get dicey if my suspicions are correct. Nellick, the U.S.S. Voyager is not available. If there is anything about it that you need to know, I can answer those questions. I was stationed on Voyager during its time here in the Delta Quadrant.
You were on Voyager? That's excellent news. If you're willing to vouch for your fleet's strength, Captain Kim, we are ready to join your alliance.
You're telling me... Wait a second. They just transmitted a coded signal. There's a ship just outside sensor range, probably waiting for Voyager to arrive.
Ensign Harry Kim? Or is it Captain now? Finally got a promotion, I hope you enjoyed your life, Captain. It ends now.
I don't know. You have me at a disadvantage. You know my name, but I don't know who you are. At least give me the courtesy of an introduction to the man who's going to kill me.
My name is Sesson, but that means nothing to you. You would have known my mother. You served with her on Voyager until your Captain Janeway's hatred and prejudice drove her into exile with the Kazon, where she was a brave and capable leader. Tell me, Captain Kim, do you ever think about what you did to Seska?
Seska? Then you must be... We didn't even know you were still alive, Sesson. Your father took you when he left Voyager.
While Sesson and Captain Kim squabble over old hurts, I would like to make you an offer. My clan has taken over a new planet, but the climate is arid and water is in short supply. About 100 of your terraforming systems would change our prospects for the better. If you will provide them, I'll pledge the loyalty of the Kazon Relora to you right now, as well as the ships of all the clans who are our allies. How unfortunate. The Kazon Nistrum have agreed to give us some resources, but their price is high, and Sesson isn't the most trustworthy man to deal with. However, they are willing to help us, and you are not.
Shields up. Red alert. I knew Kazon. Not all the plans are signed. A few are fighting groups.
An 8472 infiltrator had borrowed his or her identity on Terrasphere 8. Hal, even Starfleet Academy groundskeeper Liam Boothby told me that if he was 30 years younger, he'd have asked me to bring him along. Was every one of the undying uniform you encountered on Terrasphere 8 disguised as real, existing humans? We never found that out for certain, but I have a strong suspicion that the answer to your question is yes. It's a safe, conservative assumption that Starfleet Command and shared. After all, why would 8,472 waste time and energy learning how to live the lives of fictitious humans and humanoids when it wouldn't have been any more trouble to just morph themselves into doppelgangers of real ones? Didn't Starfleet Security have some concerns about your personnel choices for that mission? You might expect them to worry that an undying sleeper agent might really be lurking among them, since it was already an established fact that each member of your team had already been duplicated by an undying agent. As a matter of fact, I did get some flack from Admiral Marta Battenman at Starfleet Security. Some of her staff could have taught even 8,472 a thing or two about paranoia. We were both admirals, of course, but she had seniority on me. She could have shut the mission down, but she obviously didn't succeed. Why? Marta didn't reckon with my secret weapon, Admiral Derek Bullock. Like the members of my team, he had a personal stake in the outcome of our mission, because he was also among those that we knew for certain 8,472 had doppelgangered aboard Terrasphere 897. Gareth backed me up and even told Marta that by her logic, he ought to be clapping on for the break. But unless he failed an identity scan and started morphing into the corner of Starfleet Command was left to consider allowing Admiral or anybody else to do that. So you were off to Phobos, or what was left of it, for the first time. What did you find when you moved? You began by first of all, the neutrino counts were laid off. Traditional supernova give off pretty heavy neutrino emissions, but this one was an order of magnitude difference. We determined early on that the bulk of the neutrinos we should have detected coming from the Phobos region were somehow being shunted directly into subspace. That must explain how all that hard radiation and all the other lethal effects of the supernova were able to cost the hundreds of life years between here and Romulus in a matter of days. I think so. Of course, we still don't fully understand the exact physical mechanism that allowed it to happen. Still, it's the only explanation I've seen so far that makes sense and squares with what we did. But the low neutrino flames was only the beginning. Believe me, Mr. Sickbay, even a year after the convenient part of the supernova event, what was left of Phobos wasn't deficient in much of anything else. We had a damned rough ride, even with so much of the supernova's initial energy output already disappeared. Phobos was still throwing off intense streams of X-rays, gamma rays, delta rays, epsilon radiation, and even birdhole rays and tetrine particles, and the combined effect strained our multiphasic shielding system to the limit. Standard deflector shields would have been completely useless so deep inside what we had already started calling the Phobos Nebula. Needless to say, subspace communication with Starfleet was a complete hash everywhere within the light tier of Phobos. We got to within 2 of Phobos before the structural integrity field itself became Don't worry, but we managed to get the highest resolution scans of Phobos to date. We ran a significant risk to life, but we also stood a fair chance of being detected and attacked by the Romulans, or by one of the warring Romulan factions in contention for control of the record to the post-Phobos Star Empire. Every member of my crew agreed to run those risks, Mr. Sisko. It wasn't just me, but the diplomatic dangers could have affected a lot more people than you and your crew. How do you answer those who accuse you of jeopardizing the Federation's goodwill vis-a-vis the Romulans because of a personal vendetta against everybody? I don't have any answer for that, because I've always found the accusation ridiculous. After all, that mission proved to be a fairly well, but the Romulans never had any intention of reciprocating any of the olive branches we'd extended to those missions on its mercifully brief time in the 2 years we owned. Their plan had always been to thank us by quietly slipping the honor blade into our I certainly can't argue with any of that, Admiral. But at the time, and without the benefit of historical hindsight, your reputation inside Starfleet suffered quite a bit. Admiral Bullock notwithstanding, more than a few of your peers in Starfleet Command were critical of some of the risks you were willing to take in ferreting out possible and dying infiltrators. True enough, ironic, isn't it? I mean, given Starfleet Command's worries that 8,472 might have infiltrated my first Phobos mission. But I had to go with my own assessment of the damage that a species as hostile, intractable, and patient as 8,472.
I apologize for the deception. Mage Session holds a great deal of power over the rest of the Kazon clans. I hope my actions here will convince you that our desire to assist you against the Vaadwaur is sincere.
The Kazon are very factional. I can believe that Sesson strong-armed them into acting as they did. I would like to welcome the Kazon Ogla and the other allied Kazon to the Alliance. I heard you tried to get the Kazon Relora to join the Alliance. I would have helped if I could, but I had my hands full with Sesson and the Kazon Nistrum. Sesson is obsessed with Voyager. I don't know what his father told him about us, but Seska was a thorn in our sides for most of our early time in the Delta Quadrant. She certainly wasn't the victim. She was the aggressor. It looks like her hatred of Voyager has been passed on to her son. I wish he could have had a better legacy. I'll return to Admiral Tuvok in the Alyan system. See you there.
Our success on this mission falls within expected parameters. Some of the races are willing to join us, but others did not see the wisdom of working together toward a common goal. We will continue our efforts. Perhaps if we take a different approach with those who are still reluctant, they will see the value of cooperation.